Kelly. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Oh my gosh. Is this Lloyd Evans?
It is I, yes.
I'm
How are you?
right now. I'm doing well. I'm so glad to speak to you, like for the first time ever.
Well, thanks so much for calling in. And how can we help you?
Yes. So I just recently became an atheist. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, actually. And you really helped me to get out of that. And anyway, I work in the healthcare field as a Spanish interpreter. My culture is Hispanic. I have a whole bunch of religious family members that are, telling me that I should, believe in God. And when I open up to some of my patients in the healthcare, when I'm on an assignment, and they'll, be very in vulnerable positions, like it'll be labor and delivery or cancer patients. They'll just be saying, "Oh, can you pray with me?" or "Can you just pray for me?" And it's kind of hard for me to become sensitive when it comes to these religious things. So I guess I just wanted to know, how did you do it after waking up, knowing what you know? Like, how were you able to become sensitive to family members or other family or friends?
That's a tricky one. So just to be clear, you're talking about working in a hospital setting, and as a former Jehovah's Witness who's now an atheist, you're now finding yourself in situations where perhaps someone who has nothing to do with Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe they're just another type of religious group, and they're wanting to involve you in prayers or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. It's tricky. I think as well, it's kind of compounded by the fact that, sometimes people might be at death's door, and for whatever reason, they have these kind of cherished beliefs that clearly mean a lot to them, and for whatever reason are bringing them comfort, albeit false comfort, at the final moment. And is that the time to kind of make a stand? I suppose, speaking for myself, and others will feel differently, because let's not forget, when you've been in an abusive group, religious trauma syndrome's a real thing, and you've got to guard your mental health. But speaking for myself, to be honest, I'd be tempted to just kind of indulge people. The way I think of it is, there was a really good Louis Theroux documentary about people who suffer from Alzheimer's, and he'd go to care homes in, I think, the Phoenix area, where staff were looking after people who had Alzheimer's, and they had all sorts of strange fantasies that were, for whatever reason, bringing them comfort, or that they'd kind of settled into. And the staff would say, "We just have to play along with it, because it causes them more distress if we don't. If we just try and snap out of it and say, 'Hey, I'm not your son, you're not on the Titanic,' or whatever, it's going to bring them more distress." So I suppose it depends, number one, on your mental health, and number two, on how demanding the request is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It's just like you said, just growing up in a very abusive group such as the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, literally, I was just watching a documentary yesterday how they're a multi-billionaire corporation or organization. And like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is like I said, I'm work with the Hispanic community. So it's a lot of undocumented immigrants that can't afford health insurance or can't qualify for it here in the States. So then it's like, dude, like, wake up. Like, these people are scamming you for your money, and they're just living comfortably, and you're here like in a horrible situation. And where is your organization or group to back you up and help you with this stuff. Like, why can't you just see that? I guess that's always going through my mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can be hard. This is Kenneth, by the way. It can be hard to see, what you're not looking for, when you're in these moments and like Lloyd was saying, we're talking about people who are under high levels of stress, who are distressed, who are, dealing with pain management and all kinds of other stuff. It may not be the most opportune time for them to go, hey, wait a minute. I think these guys might be up to something over there. They just got bigger shit, frankly, on their mind right now.
Right.
The damage has been done, so to speak, when it comes to their acceptance of an organization. And at this point, they're in cruise control mode.
Right.
I think there's a lot of merit in picking your battles and deciding for yourself, is this the time to kind of stand my ground or make my position clear, or is this just something where just to keep everybody happy and just to kind of move to the next moment, we can just kind of overlook this. And again, you shouldn't be expected to go along with something if it's going to be triggering for you. But if you're in a state where you can just let it slide, I would personally be of the mindset to say, you know what, I'm not losing anything just by momentarily playing along with some fantasy for someone who I barely know,
Yeah,
true.
It's definitely a question of like, how you want to be. I mean, Lloyd's response to this has been very mature and compassionate and everything. I tend to be kind of an asshole about this kind of thing.
No, Kenneth, no, you don't. Come on.
No.
I mean, like,
what's happening now, Kelly, is he does this on every show. He's fishing for compliments. He does it all the time.
No, not like in a mean way, but just in a way that's like, hey, do you want to pray with us? Not really. It's kind of like if you've ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, how Larry David is whenever anyone asks him to do anything, and it's just like, nah, I don't really want to. And that's kind of it. If people are like, well, why? And I'll just say, it's not my thing. Yeah, you do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. And, some people get really mad about it. But in my experience, when you build the reputation of being the guy that's like, yeah, he's just not into doing this stuff, people kind of start leaving you alone about it. But again, it's very much a question of, like Lloyd said, what you want to do for your mental health and what's going to be best for you. And in terms of alleviating the suffering potentially of your patients. So.
Okay. So I guess, because to be honest, it's not fully triggering, but it's like somewhat triggering. Sorry, I can't speak. For example, I just recently got diagnosed with severe PTSD, and I go to intensive care trauma therapy twice a week because of what happened to me growing up in the Jehovah's Witness. Like, a lot of bad shit happened. And it's like, now that I'm awake and I know like the truth, like, okay, this is, like you said, it's all like a fantasy that they're just selling you. It's just like, I can take it at some moments, but then it's like when they start talking like my parents who no longer like really give a shit about me anymore, it's like, that's when I start getting those feelings of, when they start saying like, oh, but you can just repent, or God loves you, or, oh, just remember that, it's like, okay, like, you're guilt tripping me now. And it's like, I don't know how to handle that.
Yeah. Well, this is where you need to be a guardian of your mental health. Yeah. So even though it may not be necessarily triggering for me, if it's triggering for you, then that's what matters. So what you could do, for example, is you could explain the issue to your supervisor, so that the next time this problem comes up, you can say to the patient or whoever, you know what, I'm not in a position to help you with this right now. Let me go fetch someone else for you. Yeah. And then your supervisor can help you find someone who's okay with doing whatever it is they want to do. So I think it's a matter of kind of communicating with your bosses and making sure they're aware that this is a mental health issue that you're receiving therapy for due to your PTSD. And I'm sure on that basis, they'd be willing to accommodate you.
Yeah. Boundaries, man. And, yeah, and also it occurred to me that I don't know if you've ever heard of an organization called Recovering from Religion, but if you haven't, you should try reaching out to them. Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, when I went on Discord a while ago, a lot of good people were telling me to definitely check that out. So now that you're saying it, I'm definitely going to check it out.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully you found some or all of this helpful, and thank you so much for calling through, Kelly.
Right.
I think we may have lost Kelly. But yeah, it's true. I mean, everyone has their own way of dealing with these issues, but religious trauma syndrome really is a thing, and people do need to, like I said, just be guardians of their mental health. But if it's not going to be a big issue, for me personally, I just go along with it because it doesn't cost me anything. You know,
it's weird in the United States too, because it's just so normalized to proselytize and to just assume that people around you are on the same page as you religiously. So it can be very, very hard for people who aren't religious to set those boundaries, or even for people who are from, sort of minority religious groups to be like, listen, I don't want to participate in your thing, whatever that may be. It's weird. I think we need to normalize and break down the sort of taboo nature of just being like, I don't. You can do your thing, but I don't want to participate in it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's okay to set boundaries.
Yeah.
And one thing that Kelly, of course, mentioned is Discord and availing herself of various Discord communities. If you want to continue the discussion after this show, you can join us in the ACD, our fan run Discord, at tiny.cc/ACA Discord. Also, make sure to check out the newest version of the ACA show, The Non-Profits, which will air live at 3 p.m. Central Time today at youtube.com/The Non-Profits ACA. Great show, isn't it, Kenneth?
I'm on this week's Nonprofits, as well as
it's not such a great show. It has its
There's
it
a
has its
dip in
off days.
quality from time to time. That's true. But to offset that, Mandisa and Cynthia are going to be on there as well as Malty. So we had a good time this week. So
fantastic. Can you give us any teasers?
Oh gosh, I went off the rails a few times, but I mean we talked about
your clothes on.
That's true. We talked about the sort of draconian abortion laws that are happening down in Texas. How alternatively there's progress happening in Mexico with regards to reproductive rights and women's rights. I don't want to give away too many spoilers over here, but we had a good time.